Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Learning Self-Love here in UrVeda. I am Darla Williams. I am your intuitive transformational therapist. What I do is I teach quite a few different things, and I do it through, a lot of it through intuition, but a lot of it came from my own personal journey and brought me to a place where I began coaching and teaching and sharing my story with others, with groups, with individuals, because it's really important. I'm going to go ahead and I was talking just before I hit the record with everyone, and I was sharing a little bit of my story. And Russell, he has said, I think it's really important that we record that. So I'm going to just sort of backtrack just a little bit and start off with what I was saying with everyone and how I came into this arena. I started off very young. I've always watched people. I was a people watcher. People are my passion. I absolutely love people, the way that they are, the way that they think, the way that they move, why they do what they do. It became my passion. I started off very young, going and having just a little bit of a different life than most other children. I used to pretend as a child that I was passing out my name and telling people that they wanted to keep it. So before I could even write, when I was going to the laundromat with my family, as a child, I would scribble on a little piece of paper about the size of this, and I would pass it out to all the people in the laundry room and state to all of them, you know, you might want to keep that because one day I'm going to be famous. Now, the irony to that was I could see my name in lights. I could see my whole world from as a child. I could see myself doing so much more than what everyone else was doing. Now, to come into a place and land that so that you understand what that meant, I came into a space where I started watching people and paying attention to the finite details because I had been broken very early in life. So it became a response to being abused very early. So I say broken before I began. And I bring everyone through transformational therapy so that and I use a lot of my story because of my own experience to begin developing that. So several years ago, how the art of learning self-love, which is what we're all here for today, how that began was in my own healing journey. I realized that one thing was lacking in all of my experiences was lacking love. I was truly searching in all the wrong places. I was truly living that time in my life, the lyrics from the song Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places, that was truly who I was. I was like, I didn't know how to even begin. So I was looking outside of myself. And I needed to begin looking within. But what part of that brought me there? It was when I was in my healing story of my own process that brought me to a place of developing an awareness of myself, as well as the awareness of those around me. And the importance of everything starts literally within us. It's not outside of us. So when you hear that, people go, well, what does that even mean? What does it mean to develop an awareness? What does it mean to understand that it starts within? That's the part where everyone gets hung up. They think, oh, self-love, that's selfish. But in all actuality, it's not. If you don't love yourself and you don't know how to begin loving yourself, how can you expect to share that with another if you can't identify it? I spent many years looking outside of me asking everyone else to love me. But when it came down to it, and I realized I wasn't receiving what I needed, and I was constantly being hurt, I had to stop and pause and go, what is the problem? Why can't I be loved? Well, one of the one things I got asked in a relationship once was, well, what do you really want? You keep telling me to love you, but you don't tell me what you want me to do. And I didn't know. And I realized I needed to take a step back and I needed to find me. So I began developing a way to begin loving myself. Many have asked me, what does it mean along my path and my journey to turn within? Well, let's dive into that. Looking within is the first steps to beginning our best life. Each and every one of us are unique in our own way. We all have similarities, but when it comes down to the core of who we are, what I need for my life is going to be completely different than what a Russell may need, or what a Jane may need, a Joe, or a Kathleen. Each of us have our own unique style of things, our own individuality. And that is what is important to learn about ourselves before we can go and expect somebody else to love us. So when I was broken, when I was wore out several years ago, I began discovering affirmations and how I'm a person who, if you've ever heard of the 5 love languages, I am a person who needs encouragement because I encourage everyone else. So I fill up my love tank and then I walk around and I hand it out to everyone. I go, oh, here, let me sprinkle that over here. Let me sprinkle some more over there. And I share that love of encouraging words, telling people that they're beautiful, sharing that I love that outfit, looking at each person and saying, what I recognize about them. And the reason I did that my whole life and depleted my own tank before I realized the importance of filling myself, I was looking for others to do that for me. No, it's not somebody else's responsibility. It's our responsibility to take care of our needs and ourselves. The people that come along in our life are just the extra. It's the icing on the cake. The cake is great by itself, but you add the icing and everybody's happier. So I realized that for myself, I was lacking confidence. I was lacking security within me. And I began developing, I needed to write affirmations for myself, because when I looked at the mirror and I thought, wow, you radiate self-confidence. The first time I said that one, I laughed at myself. I thought that was the biggest joke I'd ever heard. And I said it myself because I was trying to make myself believe it. But I was so far from loving myself because nobody was there to teach me that. But I had to finally discover it. And it was not something that was out there for the rest of the world, that other people were sharing it, because when I began my journey in that place of self-love, I was talking to other coaches, and I'm not ever going to mention any names, but many coaches told me I needed to niche and that self-love wasn't the place. Oh, there's no money in that. And I said, what do you mean there's no money in that? It's not really about the money, really. But you know what? If I make money along the way, then that's great. But for me, it was about the fact that the money came because I began understanding myself. The money comes not because, but as a result of you fine-tuning yourself. So no matter what your arena is, whether it's self-love, confidence building, market media, media marketing, if it's setting up and just coaching people through traumatic experience, or whatever your area is. Because I could go on their lists and lists. We have plenty of those labels out there. But what I found was the importance that all of it began within. So I want to ask everyone today, does everybody here on the platform have a practice that they do for themselves, that they would be willing to share with others that may be hearing this, that they do for their own self-love? And if not, would you like a couple of tips? I'm going to go ahead, and Russell, you're already unmuted. I'm going to go with you first.
Well, we always could use more tips, Darla. And you do seem to radiate self-confidence and self-love. So my hat is off to you. You seem to be in the right place. The thing that I do for myself is that I try to be kind. And if I've had some rough times, a rough day or anything like that, I try to give myself a day off and not put any pressures on myself to create or accomplish, or it doesn't matter if it's something as silly as cleaning or something like that. I give myself a break. I believe that I deserve that, so I show myself kindness.
That is beautiful. That's actually really beautiful. And that you really showed a couple points there that I want to point back out. He makes time for his kindness to himself, but at the same time, he's refreshing himself. And through that, he's cleaning up his area. When we seem to get in that space where we start to feel frazzled in life, it really comes from how much stuff is in our life that's congesting the flow of life. And when you take that time, Russell, what I actually love about what you said was that you're really creating a space for the universe to deliver more and give you more abundance. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go over here to Joe, because he's on the other side of the screen what I'm looking at. So Joe, what do you do daily to show yourself self-love?
Oh, I've cheated a little. I've taken the Art of Learning Self-Love course, so I've learned a few tricks, but definitely always loving to learn more. But like Russell, definitely being kind to yourself, allowing yourself to learn from mistakes instead of beating yourself up for them. Definitely expressing the gratitude even for those mistakes you made, because we're still growing from them. Then more like a physical aspect, because I do deal with physical stuff. I treat myself to yoga regular and self-Reiki, and just do the very best I can to live as pain-free as possible.
Awesome. Awesome. So in other words, what both of you guys are talking about in regards to that kindness to yourself, that you guys are giving yourself permission to take care of yourself. The number one key to this is giving ourselves permission. How often in life do we forget that we're just as equally allowed the same thing that we would give to everyone else? Jane, I'm going to come to you. Do you know what you do each day for self-love for yourself?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not able to use my video, but I am here. And yeah, I did something on Sunday for the first time in my life, and I surprised myself. It was, wow, I still can't get over that I did this, and I love it because it was, sometimes you just have to use a little bit of imagination along with the self-love. And here's what I did. I looked out my window of my house to this 50-foot crimson tree. And I started looking at it and looking at the beauty of it. Now, for years, I would hear people say, oh, I take a walk in the woods. You have to get in nature. And it's like, I don't take time for nature. I just don't. And whatever that is, call it whatever you want. But, and then I took my chair outside. I sat back from the tree for about 45 minutes. And I watched there was very little wind. And I watched the leaves slowly fall from the tree. And I felt at one. I felt like I was at one with the tree. I understood that I am in the cycle of life, that my leaves will fall, and then I will go through a hibernation. It'll be cold, but then spring will come, and hope springs eternal. And I gotta tell you, I fed myself in such a big way on Sunday that I never dreamed or thought about that I could, or why would I? It was just like a divine inspiration, or something came from up high. And so I would just say, you know what? Use your imagination. Like start, and then I started thinking about, I have grandchildren. Before the week's out, they're going to sit with me and watch the tree. So, pass it on, right?
Exactly. Yes. That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Jane, how you were using that opportunity to tune in. That was perfectly executed in regards to understanding what we are truly able to achieve when we begin tuning in. She became one with that tree. We are all connected, just like that, through the oneness of all. We all have, if my spirit pulled up out of the top of my head, what would happen? One of the best trainings and teachings Ruth Elizabeth ever taught me through the Diamond Matrix was, if my spirit pulled up out of the top of my head, what would happen? My body would expire and I would fall down dead. I have a spirit within me, you have a spirit within you, and we are all connected through that spirit. So if we all have that oneness, how much more if we all tune into that, can we actually connect on a different level, and actually expand who we truly are? That's part of what I do through the transformational therapy, is I help people to understand that, but in their own individual, unique way, and how it brings them into that cleave of us all being connected, because we all have our own individuality. We all have our own reasons for being here. We all took that contract, ran with it, and said, all right, I'm going to go do it. And then we're in it and going, what in the world am I into? Why did I choose that one? Because it's not what we really wanted at all. But it was enough to bring back that information for us as we pass on. We're bringing that knowledge back and actually expanding the knowledge collectively. And that's an important part of what we do and why we're all here to do this. So I am really grateful for each and every single one of you guys in here today. And what we're talking about, because John, Taylor, and Lori, you all just came in, what we're talking about is our self-love and what we're doing each day for ourselves to show ourselves self-love, if you have any, or are you here to learn tips and tricks on how to begin loving yourself? So I'm going to go ahead and continue, and I'm going to go with Kathleen. If I know you were just saying that you were listening in, and it's okay if you can't jump in. So I'm just giving you a second to find out where you're at. And that allows you all an opportunity to sort of think about that question. What are you doing daily to show yourself self-love? And anybody who's ready to answer, go ahead and raise your hand, and I will call on the next. I like that, Lori. I do that too. I'm fashionably late, and I always just say, ta-da, I'm here. I finally made it. I'm on the universe time, not my own. But
Well,
she wrote-
I love your topic, Darla, and I think it's probably most of our major problem is that we don't even identify what self-love really is. And I do remember, I'm sorry about the noise. I have my I'm going to move around here because I have my 2-year-old great grandson and he's watching Sesame Street. So you may hear Elmo in the back. But anyway, a while back,
sorry.
yeah, right. A while back, a number of years ago, during the season of Lent, which I've always respected just that ritual, but I never liked the deprivation in part of it, you know, what was give up this or stop, and just the way that it was phrased. But I loved the ritual. So I decided that I was going to do an act of self-care every day for 40 days.
Beautiful.
And the first 5 days were great and expensive because I got my hair cut, I went and got a massage, I sat in the salt cave, I did all the big obvious things. And then after 5 days, I was getting a little short on money and getting a little short on ideas. So, it really got my attention as to like, wow, unless I think of something big, I'm not really thinking of self-care. You know, I'm like, I can't come up with anything that might be small. So I put my attention on it. And then like one day I polished all my jewelry that I didn't wear just because it wasn't polished. I fixed a pair of earrings. I sorted through my socks, and I donated things that I knew I would never wear again. Just, you know, things that I guess we might call procrastination turned into some self-care. And it was profound, and I've never forgotten that. And we need the reminder. It just falls away quickly. So it's a practice and ritual for me to do something and name it self-care, and then, you know, find that appreciation and that satisfaction within myself, that the only person I did that for was me. I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it for me. So I really love this topic, and I think we could talk about it forever. So thank you for doing this. You're delightful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're
You know,
welcome.
I was telling everyone at the beginning of the class that people are my passion. And that is what people notice when they see me, because I truly am passionate about those who are around me. I care so much about seeing people succeed. And it was
Yes.
because of my own desire of me wanting my own success. And I knew that I couldn't attain that without helping others along the way.
Mhm.
I wanted to develop a way that was different than everyone else. Everyone else back when I was developing was, it's a me world. Let me go ahead and step on everyone else to get to the top. And it doesn't matter what we do to do that. And that was all of the 80s, all of the 90s. Everyone, dog eat dog world. If you want to get to the top, it don't matter what you do whatever you got to do to get there. If it
Yeah,
hurts somebody else's feelings, oh, well, I don't care. And I thought that that was just so heartless that I was like, oh, I have to change that. That became part of what really started my journey. I had to change that.
Mhm.
And I just decided instead, what better way to do it? Just be an example. If I
Amen.
live it, somebody else might choose to do it too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was ridiculed. I was made fun of. I don't know how many times. Well, you know what? You put yourself in your own situation. You know, all of those different words we've all heard along the way. But I stood true to what I was and who I am. I stayed authentic. I didn't want to be like everyone else. I wanted to change it. I was a visionary. I saw beyond the veil. As being intuitive, that's what we do. Like sometimes I will get a message from people and those messages will just pour through and I just got to go up to people and be like randomly like, hi, I know you don't know me, but let me tell you about yourself. And people have looked at me and been like, Darla, oh my God, how do you know that? I've never told anybody that. I'm like, well, I get knowings. That's all I could tell people. I was like, oh, well, God gives me an insight. One of the things I learned in church, I might have a gift of prophecy. You know, there's a million different phrases that go with having a gift. And we can go from the secular world to the Christian world to the Hindu to whatever religious aspect you want to take it to. And I can find a word in there that belongs to it as well. The other part that's really cool is what I teach. Not only can I find it in every other religion, I can find it in the Christian, Judeo-Christian, Western Christian world as well. I can show you that if we go to the Buddhists and their practices, the Hindus, if I go to the church here in, Algonac, where, right outside of where I'm living here, wherever I go, I can show you in whatever it is that you're reading, the same thing. There's a common theme all the way across every religion. One of my favorite scriptures in the Holy Bible is do not forsake the assembly. Do not forsake the assembly. I had to really research that. What the heck does that even mean? Don't forsake the assembly. That means anything that is assembling together as a body. That means that I cannot forsake those who believe one ministry versus another. My job is to love everyone equally. That's my job. And if I do that effectively, then it really changes the dynamics all the way around. And it allows people to connect on a whole level. We were whole and complete from the foundations of creation. If we come back to the foundation, when it all began, whether or not it was the Big Boom theory, whether or not it was literally God speaking it to life, none of us were present at that moment. We came a little bit later after the earth was formed. So, however it happened, it literally wraps us in where we have a truth. That truth is we're whole and complete from the foundations. But we are so far from that understanding. And I learned that if I began the art of learning self-love with that scripture, with that understanding, people could then change the way they thought. It took and shifted people, including myself, because that's where I began it. I began it with me. I couldn't be sitting here today if I didn't walk this myself. I'm not going to ever give anybody else something else and expect them to do something that I haven't done. I'm going to do it as well. Or I've already done it and I know that that's the result. And that's why I'm sharing it. Because I believe that a good leader will get up and do the work with you. Because I know how I have been in many places where the leadership thought, that's your job, just go do it. I don't know how to do it. I can tell you a million times working in the grocery industry, how many times my boss would sit there and go, oh, I don't know how to do that job. Can you make sure that gets done? And I'm going, why are you in that position if you don't know how to do this? Like, you should know how to do this, like, because you're the boss. What if I didn't know how? So, I really believe in my heart of hearts. One of the first things on that is literally to be a good leader. You have to be willing to do the work yourself. I know that we've got just a little bit left, and I want to take that last 10 minutes to do a fountain healing today. So I'm going to switch just a little bit to go back in, because it's easy to go down the little rabbit hole and keep just flowing. If anybody else would like to, go ahead and type in the chats what little tips and tricks that you use for self-love. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about myself a little more. When I began the art of learning self-love, I literally decided the only thing I could hear in my head was 90 days, 90 days, 90 days. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for 90 days. And that's what I started, was building an affirmation a day, an assignment a day. And at the time I was reading the scriptures. So I was doing a scripture a day, or parts of scriptures each day. And in that, now I have it where it's set up. You can do it with scripture or you can do it without. And in that 90-day course that I teach, what I do is I allowed myself to begin developing each and every single day. So I was responsible for me to come up with an affirmation, go and recite it or write it or put it up on a poster board or create whatever ways for me to see it and realize it and start to accept it. Because my personal past before my own healing came with a lot of brokenness. And like I said, from broken, if you can relate to this picture, I can tell you, if you're still sitting in that space and you have that feeling, I can bring you to this. Because after I did it for myself the first 90 days, I realized there was such dynamic change that I did it again for another 90 days. And I realized I uncovered a whole nother layer of myself and went, oh, I need to do it again. So I had done it for like a whole year for myself. And then I was like, oh, gosh, I have changed so much. I got to share this with others. So I started randomly selecting friends, family, random strangers. Hey, would you like to try this? And I did like a beta run on the 90 days that I'd created. So I'd send them little messengers. Hey, check this out. Let's go through the 90 days. We'll talk once a week and see how you feel. So I was getting 25 different people's perspectives. And then I realized how important it was, because nobody loved themselves. Everybody was busy loving everybody else. We were literally sacrificing ourselves to make everybody else happy. And I decided I couldn't do that anymore, and I would give it away. I'm like, I'm going to give this away. And in turn, it developed me and showed me that it was something that was in my heart, that it was my passion. And that because of that, I had a service that people could really benefit from, that turned it into a business. Literally, you take what fills you, fuels you, and makes you you. And then you just go and give it away. Give and receive is the most important part of all of what we do. You cannot receive anything until you give. How many times have you watched people go, oh, I want respect, but they refuse to give respect? So they were sitting in that constant reoccurring pattern of never getting the respect that they want, because they won't give it. If I want respect, I got to give it. If I want love, I got to give it. Now, does that mean I got to give it to somebody that doesn't deserve it? Heck no. It means I learn my boundaries. I find myself. I discover the things that I need so that I can actually articulate it to someone else when I'm sitting in that relationship and I'm like, oh, why aren't you loving me? And they go, well, I don't know what to do because you don't know. And I can say, no, I need affirmations. I need, or I need encouragement. I need quality time. I need this, that, or the other. Do you need acts of service? Do you need physical touch? Do you need gifts? I'm like going through the 5. There's 5 of them. quality time, encouragement, acts of love, gifts, and quality time. I think that's all of them. I think I did all 5 of them. But, you know, when you're looking at that, you have to look at that for yourself. How do we identify what it is that we need? How do we come back to that place? Well, what don't we like? What is it that we experience constantly that we hate? Because if we're experiencing what we hate and we don't like, we can obviously assume that the complete opposite is what we need. So then we can now finally go, well, this is what I need. You know, if you want those flowers in your relationship, you can wait the rest of your life for those flowers. Or you can choose to go buy those flowers that are sitting on your table, that when your next relationship comes to the door, they know that you already need those flowers because they're already there. Because if you're filling your tank first, you have more than enough to give to the world around you. It starts with us. So I want to go into the closing of this today with talking about one of the modalities that I use in my therapy. I use what I call the fountain healing. The fountain, I know that there's only a couple people in here that actually know about the fountain with me because they've walked through it with me. But there's quite a few of you guys that have not walked with me through that. What the fountain came to me first, I'm going to share that a little bit. I was in a really, really hard point in my life, and I was really struggling with letting go of my past. I was holding it so, like it was the anchor of who I was. You know, it was, if I'd removed that part of me, I would lose who I was because I'd worked so hard through all of it. In a dream, I was ascended up into another space, and I literally was walking what at the time in my perception, I was walking what I thought was heaven, and I was walking through the mansion of heaven. And I ended up in a room that was filled with books. And I was thinking, wow, how interesting, a library in heaven. And this is what I was thinking in the dream. And then there was an angel that was walking along with me during this. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this, look at this. Oh. And I'm walking through all these little aisles. And I'm thinking, wow, all these things have names, just names. Which later I finally discovered what it was I was walking through the Akashic records. I was literally walking with myself through the records, but that took me a while to finally realize. But from that space, I thought, oh, wow, why is there construction in heaven? Isn't heaven perfect? And I was really confused. And the angel was like, oh no, you can't mess with it. Come with me. You got to come with me. You got to leave this area. You can't go over there because those lives are still active and developing right now. You cannot touch that. I was like, oh, I wasn't touching it. I was just curious. She's like, no, you can't even breathe that way. And she sort of shoveled me off into another little corridor, which put me into a bubble. And I got shoved off in this bubble into another space that I landed. When I landed in that space, there was a gate. I was so intrigued. I'm such a curious person. So it was just, oh, let me go find out what this is. And when I walked in through the gates, I was in a garden. And there was trees and bushes and this and that, and you know, all the stuff. And I followed it around. I found a fountain. But there was little angels all around, and they were hushing and talking. And I was watching big angels come in and get washed out through, like, from their fights and whatever that they were dealing with, whatever the angels were fighting that day, they were going and getting washed and refreshed through this fountain. And I was hiding because there were so many angels, and some of them were intimidating. And one of them goes up to the fountain and says, oh my gosh, did you know that she's in here? Blah, blah. And I heard this booming voice out of the fountain that said, don't you think I invited her? She wouldn't be here if I didn't invite her. And then I was called up by name to go up to the fountain. And I got to walk in. And there was this precious hands that just came out of this fountain and took me up into this fountain. And I myself received a healing. And it literally healed me to the very core of who I am and set me on a different track of my life completely, restored me in a way that I could have never received in any other way. But I was instructed that when it was time, that I would have to use this for others. So now that you know a little bit of the story, what I'd like to do is take you into the fountain. So if you have anything today, I'd like you to type it in the chats or go ahead and click on and share with me, and I'll take a note to anything that you would like to release today. It could be frustration, it could be confusion, it could be irritation, it could be a specific story, whatever it is for you that you would like to release and let go of and actually receive that healing. Got it, Kat? Thank you, hon. We got frustration and control. Anyone else?
Mhm,
Yes, yes, sir.
mhm.
Awesome. Okay, Joe. Okay, anyone else? And if you're not comfortable sharing, I want you to go ahead and hang on to it. And, just as I go into the third eye and collecting any of these storylines, I want you to go ahead and just hold that space for yourself if you haven't shared, because sometimes it's not comfortable sharing, and that's okay. But you can still receive, even if you don't speak it out loud. The universe knows, source knows, God knows it, whatever you choose to call it, there's always a knowing. Thank you, Tony. I think that's going to help many.
Mhm.
Okay. So go ahead. I wonder if you guys can just go ahead and shut down any mics that might be open. Jane, I'm glad you're here too. We're going to go into the fountain. Jane, I said Jane, I meant Jan. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to take in a deep cleansing breath in through your nose first. Hold, and then exhale. Bring it in again, breathing in. And then exhale. Now I want you to just keep your eyes closed, stay seated wherever you are. If you're driving, please pull over. Make sure that you're in a safe place before going into this meditation. So I want you just to go ahead and listen to my voice. And I'm going to begin painting the picture of where you're going so that you can receive your healing today. So with that, go ahead. We're going to go in one more deep breath in and let go. And now, I want you to imagine that you're standing before the gates. The gates are going to open and close 3 times. They're going to light up as they close and shut down as they open. That's one. Going to close and open. They're going to close. Now this time, you're going to feel a sense of an invite in. You're going to feel drawn within. And I want you to go ahead now as it's beginning to open. I want you to step in and onto the path within the garden. You can see the tall blades of grass flowing to and fro here and there. You can see as it's sprinkled with different colors of all the wildflowers. And off to the left, you can see that there are trees and brush and shrubs of all types, but they're sprinkled sort of all over. You see in the background that there's trees. And you can see that the path is going along its way and bending in. And you, as you are walking along, you may even see the birds fluttering up into the trees. You can watch as the butterfly flutters by, landing on each one of those little flowers. Continuing on, you feel that drawing in. You're now beginning to hear and see this white light cascading water effect flowing down from this enormous fountain, with the tears above just flowing down, 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 all the way into its basin. At the basin, you see that there's 2 steps. I want you to go ahead and walk up. Step up, step up. And then step down into the fountain. The waters that are flowing down and into the basin that your feet are now in, as it's swirling and twirling around your feet, you can see that it's slowly beginning to rise. It's rising to your ankles, to your calves, and to your knees, and it stops. You feel that you need to go into the fountain as it's flowing down from the top. So I want you to go ahead and step into that flowing flow that's coming down from the top of this fountain. And I want it to come down and over the top of your head. As you feel it, you're going to feel it coming down around your head, down your shoulders, down your back and your arms, and all the way down, meeting the water at your knees. As that's coming along, I want you to go ahead and begin to open and accept. But there's a perfect flow from above as it is below. And that wholeness and that completion and restoration is rightfully yours. So I want you to go ahead and open that crown and allow these waters to start trickling down and into your mind, into the third eye, opening and illuminating the third eye, bringing into that understanding. Go ahead and begin swirling, twirling, and allowing a ball of light to begin building within your mind. Anything that brings frustration, control, stress, those stories that you didn't share, but you know that are there. The cleansing of the things that are holding us back, removing those things that are keeping us limited, removing the attachments to expectations or anything else that is holding you from living your highest good. Bring it in, circulate it, bring it around, in circles around, and then drop this ball down into your throat. Into the throat chakra, we're going to go ahead and clear and cleanse and bring it back to fullness, wholeness, completion, as it is from the foundations of creation. Removing and uprooting any of those storylines. The storylines that we've spoken over ourselves, that others have spoken over us, and that we continue to repeat, pulling and cleansing and restoring us to the wholeness of completion. That we are free from those things that are limiting. Cleansing us and giving us the ability to speak out our truth. I want to go ahead and pixelate it now, bringing it down through your arms, into your fingertips, and back up into your heart center. We're going to go ahead and clear out like a mighty washing waterfall through your heart, breaking up any resistance to the truth that you are whole, complete from the foundations of creation. Anything that limits your belief that you are able to receive a total transformational recovery today. Bringing you into that healness down into the solar plex, busting through any blockages, continuing to run through into the sacral, which is just below the belly button. Exhaling if necessary, pushing out any resistance down into the root of your very being, bringing you back to the wholeness and the completion of who you were made from the foundations of the earth. Taking the rest of that story that is no longer serving anything in you that is not serving your highest good, bring that down through your thighs, through your calves, down into your feet, and down, down, down into the ground as far away from you as possible. Positing this story and allowing yourself to just bring back the light, the water, full cleansing back into your toes, through the soles of your feet, up into the calves and around the shins, and up into your knees, up through your thighs and back up into that root, which is just the base of your spine. Bringing it back up. And this time, instead of coming back through the whole system, I want to just bring that up, back up through the spinal column, up into the brainstem, wrapping it around to the frontal cortex of your mind, and bringing you back into calibration, recalibrating, bringing you back to the wholeness of who you truly are meant to be from the foundations of creation, giving you peace, comfort, security, and ultimate love to yourself so that you can truly love others, because love begins within, not from without. When you're ready, go ahead and release it. Let it back up into the heavenlies. When you're ready, go ahead and wiggle your fingers and your toes. Taking a deep breath. Exhale. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And just be thankful for the healing restoration power. We're at the end of class today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And I hope to see you next week with the Art of Learning Self-Love. Bye for now.
Thank you, Darla.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Darla.
You're welcome. I'm trying to, me and my techie stuff.